Hey adventurers, so today is going to be the spoiler discussion for episode 7 of the Rings of Power, which is titled The Eye. And that's not at all what you think it should be, which is frustrating. They intentionally mislead you with these episode titles most of the time. And I don't like it because it's not reflective of what the content is in the actual show. And so that's frustrating. Anyways, we'll get into my thoughts, and I didn't have that many thoughts on this episode. It was just existing, and I was just writing down, not very often, the things that were happening and what I was thinking about them. So, let's see. It starts out the episode back in the Southlands and in the village that just got hit by the volcano and everything like that. And you're seeing the horrors of that, and people, dead people and live people, and the alive people dealing with the dead people, and the alive people trying to get the other alive people out from being dead people, stuff like that. And so some of that was good. The first thing that I specifically noted was that Isildur seeing Ontmo dead is good. The horror at it, the remembering of their convos in previous episodes. So basically he helps Valandale, I believe is his name, helps Valandale get out, and then he sees Ontmo is dead there. And the horror on Isildur's actor's face felt realistic. It felt like, oh no, what did I just do? And then it also, that one look that he gave recalled us back to episode 6 where where Ontmo was talking about how, yeah, maybe war isn't for me. Maybe I just want to go home and live a normal life type thing. And then it also recalls back to like episode 4 or 5 I think, where Ontmo is having a conversation with them, and he's like, I'm gonna come home. I want to come home and live my life and everything. So that, through that one look that Isildur gives, you get that whole context of everything, and that's good writing, that's good acting. Then they're trying to help people out of a burning building. Isildur runs in there and is holding up the ceiling, and for some reason Muriel decides that she also wants to hold up the ceiling, and so she tries to go in there, and then sparks fly in her eyes and blind her. And so my comment is, why is Muriel being blinded? And then the building collapses, and immediately after that I'm like, why are they trying to make us think that Isildur is dead? There's no reason to. First off, Muriel being blinded, that's whatever. I guess the books never technically say that she's not blinded, so sure. But it just feels kind of weird. And then the trying to make us believe that Isildur's dead, so stupid. We know that he's not dead. He has a very important role to play in the rest of the show. And if he is dead, then what? Is Elendil going to have another son that he names Isildur? Which, no, he's not. His wife's dead too. It's like, I don't understand. I don't understand what their reason for killing Isildur is at this moment, because there isn't one. Yeah, so then we switch back over to the hobbits. And they're walking, and they're almost to their grove, and behind lots of issues with the Hobbit storyline this episode, but behind them, so there's Poppy and Nori up at the front pulling Poppy's cart together, and then there's the rest of Nori's family walking behind that, and then in the background you see the stranger pulling the cart by himself, and I'm like, real rude leaving the stranger to pull the cart for them. Like, I understand that he is bigger, he's stronger, he's a full-sized human being rather than a hobbit, and that he's actually not, but the father has had a sprained ankle in the past, and he doesn't now. They just conveniently got rid of that because it was no longer necessary for the plot. They already got the stranger coming with him. So it's just but anyways, just looking at it, I'm like, why are they making the stranger pull the cart for them? That's never what the agreement was. The agreement was to have the stranger help them, and they would help the stranger. And so far, it seems like they're just making the stranger their slave, and I don't like that. Then we get a scene, I believe it's between Durin and Durin, so the son and the father, and Durin the son. It's still not like the two Durins, multiple Durins being alive at the same time thing, but anyways, Durin 2 says something about saving his drowning friend or something like that, pulling him onto shore. And all I can think of is, why is Durin using ocean or river imagery, water imagery, in his speech? And just like, you're a dwarf. use something along the lines of stone, like he's caved in, he's trapped under a rock and I'm trying to pull him free, or something like that. That is more fitting for the dwarves, rather than this ocean, which is more fitting for the Numenorians, or even the elves. Like, it just, that one didn't work. And then, so they did it specifically for this and it was stupid. Why hadn't they tried it before, type thing as well. But Elrond gives the little chunk of mithril back to Durin, and then leaves, and then Durin is like, he looks at it and throws it across the table, and it conveniently lands right beside where the leaf is, the dying leaf is, that Elrond apparently took from Lindon to show the king with him. And so then as they sit there, the mithril is healing them, like they're trying to say that mithril is some special ore imbued with the light of the Valar or something like that, which we've already established in past discussion videos that that's not the case. Mithril is literally just a special rock. It's special because it's lightweight and harder than steel. That's what makes it special. It also reflects light very prettily, but it is not a magic rock. It's just metal. So the leaf, by the time that they throw the mithril over there, is basically completely dead. It's also like lost all its color. The black lines are spreading out all over it, covering the whole leaf, and so the mithril flies over there and lands beside it, and then it melts that all away. I could understand, and I would be accepting with the lore that they pretend to have written for this show, which they did write for the show, which is stupid and not accurate, that if truly mithril contains the light of the Valar, which it doesn't, but if it does, like the show seems to pretend like it does, then I could understand that little piece of mithril could push back the blackness, the darkness that's on that leaf. But it wouldn't make the leaf come back alive. Let's see, what did I say? Dead leaves don't just regain pigmentation. It's dead. The leaf is already dead. It's not going to just come back alive. And it's just like, what are you doing? Do you not understand anything about anything? Because that's what it's feeling like. Then we go back to, so there's a conversation throughout. Basically what happens is Galadriel and Theo decide to go off on their own. Whatever, stupid decision. But it does lead to some good conversation. So I appreciate that. Basically, Theo is like, I'm gonna kill all the orcs because they're horrible and they just did this to us. And Galadriel, being the Galadriel from the previous episodes, you would think would be like, yeah, let's do it, let's go kill them all. But no, she's actually a normal Galadriel, like decently wise, smart, actually knows some things, and feels like a step in the right direction towards the Galadriel that we know from Lord of the Rings. And so I appreciate that. The problem is that Galadriel is in so stark contrast to episodes 1 through 6 Galadriel that it doesn't make sense, and there's nothing bridging the gap between them except a little conversation between Adar and Galadriel, and I guess also one between Galadriel and Halbrand, and those two conversations are not enough to bridge this gap and to make her this more contemplative, more wise character. Still, it's nice to see the correct characterization of Galadriel. Anyways, and so she says, one of the things that she says is, what cannot be known hollows the mind, fill it not with guesswork. And I like that line. I like that concept as well. But for one, it feels very elven, right along the lines of, go not to the elves, for they will counsel both no and yes, or something like that. Go not to the elves for counsel, for they will say both no and yes, I believe is what the quote is. And it feels in line with that type of stuff, and I like it, and it works, and that's a good line, it's a good conversation between the two characters. Like, I actually feel something for Theo at this point. I actually believe that he's a real character now. Whereas in all the previous episodes, except a little bit in the last episode, I never thought that at all. Like, he just felt like he was there for the sake of them needing another character type thing. So anyways, that was a good conversation. Let's see. Really, the whole conversation between Theo and Galadriel is largely good, and having her give up her sword is also a good move. It feels a bit out of nowhere though, but it's clearly their attempt to bring her to the place she is in Lord of the Rings. So at one point, she also gives her sword to Theo, and that is, from a storytelling perspective, her character arc has not reached this point yet to do this, but it is nice to see, and it harkens back to episode 1 where where Elrond is talking to her and he says, "Put up your sword. You've fought long enough." And so seeing her willingly give her sword away rather than having it be taken from her like it was in episode 1, where Gil-galad is like, "No, you're going to the Undying Lands because you're a pain in the butt." Seeing that moment from her is good. It just, we haven't built up to that point yet because episodes 1 through 6 have all been vengeful Galadriel, and we haven't gotten this contemplative, thoughtful, meditative, wise Galadriel yet. We haven't seen any of that at all, except in this episode. And so it kind of came out of nowhere, but it's good that it's actually happening. I also wrote, I'm so confused as to where the hobbits are, because now they're somewhere near Greenwood, because the dad, Nori's dad, says something about over there, that's, or I guess it might be Sadok. I think it's Sadok Burrows talking to the stranger. It's like, over there on the other side of that forest, which is called Greenwood the Great, you'll find the houses of men or something like that. And I'm like, you just walked down the Anduin and came across the top of the Emyn Muil. You're no longer anywhere near the Greenwood the Great. So, like, I'm so confused as to where these characters are. I have no idea where this grove is at that they're at. Like, I'm just, at this point, the Hobbit storyline is just makes no sense whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. Okay. We get a reference to Celeborn, but he's dead. What? How is Celeborn dead? I don't understand any of this, because this isn't accurate at all from the books. And apparently he gets reincarnated and comes back to Middle-earth? Seems unlikely. But okay. But at least they explained where he is, I guess. I guess that we can take that as a good thing. I mean, we got a reference to him, explained where he's at, so those two things are good, maybe, I guess. There's also a stupid continuity error with her dagger. So she has her dagger out, and then she puts it away, and it slides down, so it's sitting like up here, and she sticks it in the sheath, and then it slides down into the sheath back here. And so the top of it's sitting like right here. I don't know if you can even see that, but basically then in the next shot it's a different wider out shot, and it's sitting back on top of her lap again, and like, it's a stupid continuity error, and I could see how it would be missed because people aren't paying attention to that little tiny detail, but I caught it, so other people will have caught it as well. And fix your continuity errors. Try not to have them, unless it's purposeful, which in this case it wasn't. Elendil is mad at the elf now. It's her fault that he played nepotism with his son and allowed him to join. I'm so confused, because he was always, it's the will of the Valar that we found this elf. It's the will of Eru, it's the will of the sea. The sea is always right. All this stuff, she's an elf, I'm one of the faithful, la-di-da, all this stuff. And now he's like, I should never have picked her up out of the sea and put her on my ship. You already rationalized it over and over again. Now just because you think your son is dead, which he's obviously not because he's Isildur, we know that, of course. Elendil doesn't, but it's so much messed up with this. But because of that, Elendil now thinks that Galadriel is bad. It doesn't make any sense, and it doesn't work with the storyline, with the character that we've already set up. And also the fact that it was his fault that Isildur was on the boat to begin with. If you remember back in like episode 5 or something like that, Elendil tells Isildur, no, you can't come, you haven't done anything worthy of Numenor yet. And so Isildur's trying to get him to come on, or to let him on the boat and everything. And by the end of the episode, you find out, or maybe, I don't know, I'm so confused as to where it must be episode 5, but anyways, at the end of episode 5, you find out, oh, I guess he is allowed to be on the boat now. Which, he wouldn't be allowed to be on the boat unless his father allowed him to be on the boat, which means that his father's playing nepotism with him, so it's his father's fault for getting his son killed. Don't blame it on Galadriel when it's clearly not her fault. We also get a bloodthirsty Disa. She's like, and before the end of your reign, we will have all the dwarven cities, or all the dwarven communities under our control, or something like that. And I'm like, what are you doing? The dwarves are never this bloodthirsty people like this. I mean, they're greedy, yeah, but they're not the kind of people who are just like, we want control of everything. I don't know, I don't like Disa. She ruined it for me in that one scene. And I already wrote this, or I already mentioned this a little bit, but I feel like we were back to episodes where nothing happens. Also, what is episode 8 supposed to be about? They've wrapped up most of the storylines now. There's a couple more, and I was thinking this morning and getting ready to film this video, I was thinking of a couple other things that do still need wrapped up, that can continue to lead forward. But episode 8, like, I guess it's gonna have to do, and I actually have some theories about episode 8 based on the soundtrack. So there's this piece of the soundtrack titled "In the Mines," clearly dwarven. When you listen to that soundtrack, it also plays themes and motifs from like the various elven themes that they have, like Valinor, that theme, and stuff like that. So apparently every elf on Middle Earth is somehow going to go to Moria and end up in the mines and end up in among the Mithril, so that they can be bathed in the light of Mithril, which is the light of Valinor, or the Valar, or something like that. And I'm just like, so stupid. But anyways, based on the motifs and stuff in that one piece of soundtrack, that's my theory. And I don't want it to happen. But that's one storyline that has to be wrapped up. There's some stuff with the Mystics. I don't like the Mystics. I don't understand how they fit into the world. They don't. I don't understand how the Stranger fits into the world unless he's a wizard, which he shouldn't be. It's just, it's a mess at this point. But the Balrog activation looked cool. So the very last sequence of this episode is Durin, King Durin, he throws the linden leaf that's all clean and bright and alive again, somehow living on its own without being attached to a tree, and when it was already dead. Anyways, he throws it through the hole in the mountain that Durin Prince had just opened up, and they found the mithril in it, and he throws it through there and says, "Seal it up." And so then it walks away, and we follow the leaf down, down all the way down onto the ground, and then in the background of the ground, you see the leaf right here, and in the back, I guess, for your vision, the leaf's right here, and in the background here you see like this roiling smoke, and then it kind of morphs into a wing-like shape, and Balrog. And good for them. It's cool enough. Like, it actually looked cool, looked decent, felt very Balrog-y. I don't think that's what awoke the Balrog, but you know what? Sure. This show's got so much else that's messed up. Why not mess up that too? So, those are my thoughts on episode 7 of The Rings of Power. I don't know what to think of episode 8. This show as a whole has been largely disappointing. Yes, better than I had anticipated, at least in the first couple episodes, and then episode 5 with the Mithril retcon. That kind of ruined it for me. I was hoping after episode 6 it would continue that positive trajectory and do something decent. It didn't. So I'm really not feeling too great about this show at the moment, and that's very, very disappointing, because this show has the potential to be the best show ever made. It has the potential. It's got decent actors, it's got plenty high enough budget. The problem is the writers and the storytellers and the lack of consistency with the lore that Tolkien created. And all those things come together to create a mediocre show that is not Tolkien, but it tries to be Tolkien, and the only reason why people are still watching it as a Tolkien show is because it has the IP, it's attached to the IP of the Lord of the Rings. And that's not a good enough reason for the show to be made. And that's really disappointing. I hope, knowing that more seasons will be made, I hope that it gets better. I will still, I don't know. I haven't decided if I'll continue it. It'll depend on this episode 8, if I continue to cover this show like I am. Anyways, that is my thoughts. I will leave it there, largely disappointed. Thank you guys for watching an Erudite Adventure. We post videos every Monday and Thursday with adaptation stuff on Wednesdays, and we will see you guys again soon. Stay warm.